Welcome back to ciLiving. You probably noticed all of the leaves that are covering the ground, and today we are going to use some of those leaves for a fun science experiment that you can try at home. Daniel Urban with the University of Illinois is joining me with more information. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so today we are going to do another really fun experiment, but first let's talk about why the leaves change color and then fall down first.
Yeah, so the leaves are green typically because that is chlorophyll is in there, and chlorophyll is the closest thing I think science can show you to magic, because they are literally just taking the sun's rays and turning it into energy. We wouldn't have any of the life that we have today that we see all around us without this basic element right here, this chlorophyll, because all that energy then goes up the food chain from all these other levels. It all starts right there with that green. During the fall, the chlorophyll will go away and you'll start seeing these yellow, orange colors underneath. The interesting thing about these are carotenoids and flavonoids, all these other pigments. Those are things that are always there actually, but they're being overshadowed by the chlorophyll, so you just don't see them. They're in the background. Later, when some of those leaves start to turn to red, you get these lycopenes and anthocyanins in there, these other pigments. The interesting aspect of that is we don't actually know why some of those reds and purples are in there. We haven't figured out their use yet. There's speculation that it helps protect the leaf once that chlorophyll is gone, but there's still questions out there about science is always
I was going to say, we're always learning in science.
Yeah.
We make our hypothesis, then we do an experiment, and then we come up with a conclusion. And then sometimes when other scientists test it, a conclusion will be changed or disproven, or you have to do the experiment again.
There you go.
Speaking of experiments, what are we doing today?
Today, we are going to extract chlorophyll from the leaves. So I proposed this the other week when there were lots of leaves all around. You may have noticed there was a cold snap and everything just about dropped. So we did the next best thing and went to the produce aisle instead. So we're going to do this with some kale today. I have some that are already done, so you'll see what we get to at the end. These are ones where we extracted it from kale, from carrots, and from red cabbage. And then we dried it out and we have the pure pigment there. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to do this today. We're just going to start off with some boiling water.
So we need kale, we need boiling water. What is this?
This is ethanol. So this is a pure alcohol that I brought from the lab, but you can do this at home with isopropanol, rubbing alcohol, any, very inexpensive alcohol over the counter. It will do the exact same thing.
Okay, perfect.
And that's all you need.
And then once we extract it, we're going to be able to paint with it, which I feel like is something that a lot of our ancient ancestors used to do. They would use pigments from fruits and vegetables to write and draw and things like that.
Natural pigments, yep.
Perfect,
and
all right.
You can do that with this. So all we're going to do is we're going to put some, this is some hot water that I just had boiling on there. Put some of that in there. You want to put a handful of the kale in.
I'll put a little bit more just for good measure. And then I feel like it's worth mentioning that this is probably tempered glass, but you want to be careful if you're doing this into glass, that it's the right type of glass, and if you're doing it into plastic, that it doesn't melt, because this is really, I can feel the heat coming off of it.
I wouldn't recommend this in plastic. A glass that can handle the heat. You could do this in a mug. It's perfectly fine.
And with some adult supervision.
With some adult supervision. So it only takes about a minute in there. I'm going to move some of these off to the side because we're going to then transfer the leaves in there. And this is just helping to loosen everything up. It's helping to break down some of those cell walls in there. And we're probably good about this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of these leaves over here. They are quite toasty, so watch your fingers on that.
Watch your fingers, maybe get some tweezers.
Some tweezers. All right, I'm going to ask you to just cut that up into some smaller pieces for us.
So I'm scissor chopping the kale here.
Yep.
And it is
very
really
hot. I did say watch your fingers. There you go. You don't actually need to pick it up.
Okay, there we go.
All right. So if you would, take some of those with the tweezers, since they are hot. Put a couple of pieces in there. Fill that about halfway. We want them to stay in.
I was going to say, put them in and keep them in there. Don't extract them back out with the tweezers.
And so at home, this could be done in any type of vessel. It doesn't have to be a test tube. Obviously, you could just put this in a cup, add some of the alcohol to it. Let's see. We got some in there?
All right.
Sure, that's fine.
Got some in there.
We good?
Yep.
All right, I am just going to squirt some of that ethanol in there.
Okay. And this is great because you can find, I mean, you can use obviously whatever containers that you have available, but these are all items and things that you can easily get at home. You don't need to be in a science lab to do this because it's all safe. We don't even have our goggles on, right?
No, it's just, it is just alcohol. There's nothing toxic about handling that. So you want to shake that up a little bit.
Sure. Shake it up. Oh, wow, you already see the green. It's almost like you put food coloring in it, but it's just natural food coloring.
Almost the alcohol, after the cell walls have been breaking down by the hot water, that alcohol will start to extract the pigment from there. So this works with obviously any color of vegetable that you put in that. We're doing this with kale today. One of the fun things that I like to do with kids sometimes is do it with different types of vegetables, and you can actually see how much chlorophyll is in different things.
Oh, interesting,
you know? So
sure.
Kale works really well because it is jam-packed with that. And it does kind of correlate with how healthy that vegetable is.
Right, exactly. So maybe fresh vegetables, and then it looks like the longer perhaps that you leave it in, the longer it would stay green.
So this is one that I did 2 days ago, so you can see how much darker it is for sitting there in 2 days.
Cool.
And then I typically tell people leave it there at least overnight, and then after that you just want to pour it off into a shallow vessel, whether that is a bowl, a jar, something. So I've done it in Petri dishes here. You just pour a little bit off and then let it sit there, and that alcohol will evaporate off of there, and you're left with just the pure natural pigment behind.
And so then once you have this pure natural pigment, we can turn it into watercolor paints.
Yeah, so literally, we just have water in this one if you want to.
And now do I dip the brush in, or do I put the water directly in?
You want to dip the brush in?
Dip the brush, okay.
Yeah, you know like the little paint sets that you get? You just dip the brush in water and then you rub it around a little bit?
And then you rub it around on, oh, how cool. Look at that.
Yes.
Okay, so we've extracted chlorophyll, and then we've essentially made our own set of watercolor paints.
Yeah, so like I said, the orange one came from carrots, so that pigment in there is carotenoids, so you can kind of guess where that name came from.
Right.
The other one came from the red cabbage, and that is full of anthocyanin. That gives you that nice purple color. And then we've got the chlorophyll, the green right there, from our kale.
That is really cool. And then you also have a new Substack channel. So real quick before we wrap, can you tell us about that?
Sure. We started this at the Institute for Genomic Biology about 2 months ago, and every week we post a new, very publicly accessible, science-related article on there to tell people about something really cool and interesting in science. And there's actually an article on there, I think it was posted 2 weeks ago, that is about the color change in leaves. So if you want to learn more about it, go to there. It's at IGB Illinois, and you can find out some very cool stuff. And we have Thanksgiving coming up. I believe they're about to put up an article about tryptophan and turkey. One of those myths that always gets thrown around, so maybe we'll learn a little bit about that.
Does it actually make you sleepy? Tune into Substacks to find out. Well, Daniel, this was really fun and informative as always. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Well, coming up next, finalize your weekend plans. There are plenty of events happening in Central Illinois, and we have all of the details. Plus, you can now sign up to take a Master Gardener course at the University of Illinois Extension. Check out how to get involved and more when ciLiving returns.